way they work is if you can convince him when he gets hurt that, oh, you signed this, you can't sue me, and he believes you. And sometimes that works. But very often people will go, well, okay, the courts rule that you can't give up a right to be responsible if you hurt somebody. So I can't say, stand in front of my car, I'm going to drive as fast as I can towards you, and if I hit you, I'm not responsible, and we'll both sign here and agree. You can't give up your ability to be responsible if you're negligent in some way. So those don't hold up in court most of the time. Now and then, but it kind of depends on your jury. But I always say it's worth a shot. Sometimes it can figure those out. I'll give you guys one other that's business-related insurance here. And if you have other insurance questions, you can feel free to throw them out too. Because at American Family work with auto, home, business, health, life, we're in everything. So I can get you a close idea on almost anything.
If you had a family member die, like you said that their job will pay or whatever to their family, is that like if my dad were to die, would that money go straight to my mom, or does it go to the whole family?
It normally goes into, if there's a surviving spouse, it'll go to the surviving spouse. Otherwise, it becomes subject to probate law, and so it'll pay to the estate of John Doe, and then it'll be up to probate court to decide who gets that money. So if there's no surviving spouse and it's 4 kids, a judge somewhere will be determining who gets how much of that money. But otherwise, if there's a surviving spouse, it's normally paid to them.
Would the judge still decide if they have like a will or whatever?
Generally, yes, because it wasn't there until they died. So it was created after the deceased departed, and so they say that they couldn't know what they were doing with this money when they didn't know it would exist. It's kind of what happens. But, yeah. The other one I handed you out, and this is unfortunately with work comp and with this one, employer benefit liability insurance. They don't put too fancy of materials out. We got on home and auto. I've got all these fancy graphics and stuff I can show you, but this is kind of drab. But something else just to be aware of that exists: employee benefit liability insurance. If you're the office manager, the business owner, and you go, okay, I got all these great employees, I want to do good things for them, so I'm going to set them up with disability insurance in case they can't work. I'm going to set them up with life insurance in case they die while they're working or even on their own. It's a benefit. I'm going to give them group health insurance. These are all common things most of you probably have if you work a job. So what if you're newly hired, you go to the office manager, and you say, yeah, I want to enroll on all those things, so sign me up. And they say, okay, here's your pack of paperwork, fill this all out. You fill it out, give it back to them. What if they never enroll you? What if they forget? They do it wrong? If they check the wrong boxes? What happens if you don't actually get enrolled in the health insurance when you thought you were? You did the paperwork, you gave it to the office manager, and now you get a big treatment. All of a sudden you're pregnant, and it's a complicated pregnancy, so there's a $100,000 bill, and they turn in the claims, and it comes back and says, you're not enrolled in this plan. What happens? You're mad, first of all, right? You go to the office manager and say, what happened? So they investigate and say, oops, I screwed up. I didn't send it in. I didn't check the right boxes. I didn't send the premium in. Something went wrong. These kind of policies are very inexpensive, usually about a $200 addition to a normal business liability insurance. Will cover if a responsible employee negligently, accidentally, does something wrong with employee benefits. So if they don't get them enrolled in one of those group health plans, they don't get them enrolled in the right group health plan, is a common one. They got 5 to choose from, and you say, I swore they said they wanted that $5,000 deductible. And you say, no, I wanted the $1,000 deductible. Well, then there's a $4,000 difference, and they're going to say, you know, I signed the paperwork, somebody owes me. So you can add these employee benefit policies to most liability insurance for about $200 a year. Very good decision to make. I know of a case a number of years ago, actually, Anika's employer here, but the Mitchell School District had a person who went to an office, or whatever they call it, one of the human resources people with the Mitchell School District, and said, I need to enroll in the health insurance. New employee, just got hired, you know, need to enroll. And they said, you know what, you're pretty low wage and low paid employee, you've got several kids, you'll qualify for CHIPS. State-run program covers people who are very low income for health insurance. Don't enroll in our group health. You'll be okay, because you'll qualify for this free health insurance through the state. She said, great, excellent, I won't do it. A little while later, she went and tried to apply, and they said, nope, we won't take you. Okay, now our open enrollment is passed. Can't get into the group health insurance anymore, because it's right when you get hired, they have that open enrollment window where you can start. and she missed that window. So now she's got a year until open enrollment starts again. During that time, significant medical bills. What does she do? Well, in her case, she didn't sue anybody. She could have. She didn't sue anybody as far as I know, but she was out a significant amount of money for her medical bills she paid herself. So if you're the person saying, you know what, I know, go to this other thing, you want to make sure you have insurance to back you up. If you told somebody wrong, employee benefit, very important. So if you're, there's a lot of examples in this flyer here. It says, Human Resources Administration employee gives incorrect information or advice about a benefit package. Paperwork for filing an employee for health care benefits is lost. Employee not get signed up. Calculation error occurs for a retirement plan. So if they say, I want to contribute to my 401k, and you put the wrong numbers in there, somehow you get the percentages off, and instead of $500 a month put in there, it's $50 a month, and they realize it 3 months later. But in that time, the market went way up. Well, then they say, wait a minute, if I had bought in with $500 3 months ago, I'd be worth, hundreds or thousands of dollars more. So they're going to want their money. So good kind of policy to look at, very inexpensive to get. Most people don't even know they exist because they're fairly new. So. Any other insurance questions of any sort?
Question about the workman comp.
Yeah.
The gentleman who got his lane. They were trying to say that it was a pre-existing thing and that because of his own deaths or something, he didn't broke his leg.
Okay.
Is that even a factor?
Generally not.
Because he was still in that situation
Sure.
that caused the break.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Back injuries are a common one when that comes up. So a lot of times people with a back injury don't start with nothing and then develop a serious back injury. They normally injure it a little bit, and then they injure it a little bit more, and it kind of slowly gets worse in different ways. And some of that they might do, because of stuff they do on their own, and some of it might be because of stuff they do at work. But it all kind of comes down to what can you prove at the time of the claim. So with back injuries, a lot of those are settled on like an 80-20 or 90-10 split, where the insurance company pays a lot of it, but not all of it, because if they can find in your medical history that you had a slight back injury before, and this work-related injury maybe aggravated it, they owe you most of it, but they don't necessarily owe all of that injury claim. If you hire people who have medical conditions, you can't ask them, give me your health history before I hire you. As the business owner or the office manager, you can't ask people to provide that. I don't even think it's legal to request it. But at the time of a claim, the insurance company can say, well, you're asking us for money now. Before we give you any, we need to know what your health history is. They look at that pretty closely. Most work companies, just like most health insurance companies, have doctors on staff that review that kind of stuff to look at what have we treated before, was it fully resolved? So if you were going to a chiropractor weekly, and I see those quite a bit, where somebody likes to go to a chiropractor, it makes them feel good, and they go every week. And then they're in a bad car accident or they're in a work-related injury, and you say, well, okay, but something was going on before. Now instead you went to a chiropractor every week for years, and then you stopped. And for 3 years you didn't go to a chiropractor, and then you had a work-related injury. It's going to be a lot harder for the insurance company to say, no, we don't owe you for that whole thing, because if you went 3 years without treatment, you probably didn't have an ongoing problem. So if it's resolved and then something happens, they probably owe the whole bill. If it's not resolved, they at least owe you probably a significant portion of that. Going to and from work is another one, comes up a lot. I do drive from Mitchell to Plank.
I actually live in Plymouth from here for
Okay.
school, so.
Okay. So even if you're going from your house to your job, on your way to and from work generally is not required to be covered by your work comp insurance. You get hurt on your way to work, not a problem. Now at our office, very often I go get our mail before I go to work. We got a post office box, so I go from my house to the post office, which is about 3 blocks. I go inside and get the mail. Once I pick up that mail, I'm now working. So if I come back out, get in my car, and have an accident after I picked up the mail, the work comp covers you. There was a big lawsuit out in the Black Hills a number of years ago. An employee who worked for a road construction company had to drive a very long ways, but the road construction company had always put in all their employee contracts that your work begins when you arrive at the job site. So a lady was driving 70, 80 miles to work on a regular basis to work on this road, gets hurt in a bad car accident, takes her employer to court saying, I got hurt driving to this job site. And the job site changes now and then. It's, we're building a road over here, now we're building a road over here. Drug it all the way to State Supreme Court. State Supreme Court ruled in every one of your employee contracts, you said your job begins when you show up at the job site. We're not paying you to drive to work.